Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is the first time that you are joining me. Many of you have probably already seen the videos that Rachele at Amethyst Ascension put out. There are two where she's talking about specifically TarotTube and the tarot community in up to now and moving into 2026. So there's one video where she talks about where we've been and where we are now, and another video that talks about moving forward into 2026. In the video, there are some great questions for reflection or response, which I personally really liked. And so I am making a VR to both of those videos in this one video. So this video has the potential to get quite long, but hopefully not too long, and you'll stick with me. For context, because I don't believe there is a question that specifically asks for this, I have been part of the online tarot community, specifically TarotTube, since August 2018. I have not necessarily been consistent in all of that time, so I went through a period of making lots and lots and lots of videos, not just about tarot, but also about witchcraft and paganism and shadow work, and just whatever popped into my head sometimes. And then I've had periods where I've not posted anything for a while, and by a while I mean like 2 years. And then I've come back and started posting videos again. So I'm a bit sporadic about my engagement with the tarot community. I don't currently have any social media, so TarotTube is my only access to the tarot community and other tarot people, although again that has not always been the case, and that's kind of just where I am right now. So that hopefully is enough background for anybody who isn't sure of who I am. But if you have any questions that don't come up in here, feel free to ask or go through and watch old videos. So questions combined from both videos. Firstly, what originally drew you into the tarot community? I wasn't even aware that there was this huge tarot community on YouTube when I first started making videos, and relatively speaking, it's much bigger now than it was then. But I came to TarotTube kind of unintentionally, in that I was watching Kellyanne Maddox and just basically loving everything that she put out, and I started watching her for her shadow work and her witchcraft content, and then got interested in her tarot content. And at the time, I had a blog and an Instagram account with a friend of mine who was also very into tarot. And I really do prefer to talk rather than to write. Writing was really her skill. Chatting shit is really mine. And so I decided that I wanted to have a go at making videos for myself. And the barrier for entry for YouTube then was so low in comparison to where I think it is now. And so I just got my camera out and I just made a video. I didn't know how to make thumbnails or anything. I didn't know how to edit. I just made a video and stuck it up. And that was that. And as a result of that, I then discovered this much wider community of people that were all also making videos about tarot. And yeah, here I am. What has being part of TarotTube taught you about yourself? I feel like I've answered this question already in a live that I did with Sarah from Sarah's Tarot, from Sarah Arcana. Sorry, Sarah, don't come for me. And Julie from Peekaboo Rose. In one of our 3 girls, 1 deck lives, we did a channelversary tag where we answered some questions, and this one was one of them. And believe it or not, my answer was that I have learned how articulate I am. Not that you would know that from right now, but I feel like I've discovered that one of my strengths is just being able to sit down and talk to a camera without much planning or structure. I never script anything. I also very rarely have any kind of bullet points or any idea what I'm going to say when I turn on the camera. And I think I do quite well at just being coherent and articulate about things. You may feel very differently than I do about that, so feel free to tell me so in the comments, I'm sure. I also think that something that I have always found difficult about myself, but I've come to also see as a strength, is my ability to see things from multiple perspectives. And it can sometimes make me feel like a bit of a fence sitter, or at least sound like a bit of a fence sitter, but I do think I am able to see different sides to things, and again articulate that in a way that to me feels very fair while still being honest. That's my opinion of myself. My perception, the perception that other people have of me, may be very, very different, of course. What moments made you feel most connected? I mean, definitely just Three Girls, One Deck as a whole makes me feel very connected for a few reasons, a couple of reasons. Firstly, because it's something I get to do with two very dear friends of mine, that people that I would never have had the opportunity to meet and form friendships with had it not been for TarotTube and being part of this tarot community. And so that is just a wonderful, every time we do it, it's a wonderful thing and a wonderful moment that makes me feel connected. But also it makes me feel connected not just to Sarah and Julie, but to everybody who turns up for our lives, whether they turn up once or they turn up every time or they turn up now and again. Seeing, like, just being in that space, being able to share with people and talk to people, and just having people consistently turn up is just, it feels very connected. And of course, people leaving comments on my videos and people engaging with me personally makes me feel very connected. I mean, that's why we do this, right? That ultimately, that's why we all make videos. I mean, I shouldn't generalize, but for me at least, the reason I make videos is for that connection, that engagement, that, you know, comments and whatever, and VRs and all that kind of stuff. Because if I wasn't looking for that, I would just talk to my dog, right? But so anytime that I'm able to either make friends with people that move outside of this tarot space, this YouTube space, or times when I'm able to just engage with people either in my comments or in their comments if they're also content creators, or with other people in other people's comments, all of those things make me feel connected. I'm really starting to question the articulate comment that I made earlier. Moving on. What lessons have helped you grow, even the uncomfortable ones? So many things have made me grow, I think, on YouTube. But I think that there's been a lot of lessons about other people's perceptions of you and how little control you actually have over that. And that's something that I really struggled with, and being misunderstood was something that I really struggled with, because again, I think I'm quite articulate and I think I do a very good job most of the time in being very clear about what it is that I'm saying and where I stand on something or what my opinion is, and still having people misconstrue that or misunderstand that is something that I really struggled with to start with. And now I've just, you know, I've kind of grown to a point where I accept that it is what it is. People aren't always going to understand what I'm saying. People aren't always going to take me on in good faith. People are going to have their own ideas about what my intentions are. And I have no control over that. And people are going to really dislike me for no reason or every reason, but they will have their reasons. I just won't necessarily understand them. And I've kind of got to a point where I've accepted that, not just in this space, but in life in general. It's become much easier for me in the offline world to also just accept that sometimes people just aren't going to like me, and sometimes people are going to misunderstand me, and sometimes people are going to project their idea of my intentions onto me, whether I like it or not. And I've learned to live with that. I also think it's done huge amounts for my confidence, just sitting down and talking to a camera, even without the engagement that comes as a result of that, has done a huge amount for me confidence-wise. When I started TarotTube in 2018, I was excruciatingly awkward and not just on TarotTube, but just in life. I have always suffered from extreme social anxiety. I would have to drink in order to comfortably socialize, and I would constantly be rehearsing conversations in my head before saying them out loud. And I just like socializing and being in space with other people was so difficult for me. And I don't really have that so much anymore. I just have grown in confidence and lost a lot of that anxiety. And I do think a huge part of that is doing this regularly. And so it's not always been comfortable, but it has taught me so much. How does the tarot community feel to you right now? I think it feels like lots of little groups rather than a one big conglomerate. I don't think that's the right word, but I mean, it feels like most communities feel to me right now. Like, I am in a work community where I have a very particular set of people that I work with on the daily. And there are also other groups of people who work together on the daily, and we don't always get on, and we don't always agree, and we don't always, even within my little group, we don't always see eye to eye. We don't necessarily know all that well as people from other teams, groups, whatever you want to call them, but we are aware of them, and ultimately we all exist in that same community that is the workplace that I work in. And I think in many ways, TarotTube is the same. There's lots of little pockets of groups of people who tend to, you always see them communicating with each other or making videos together or doing lives together, and there's, you know, or there's some that are just very on their own, and they are their own little pocket of the community, and their channel is their part of the community. And people don't always agree, and they don't always see eye to eye, and we don't always have the same views and ideas about things, and sometimes we fight, and sometimes it gets really contentious and dramatic for reasons, and that's just community. And I think it's easy to look at that and say, well, there is no community because we don't all agree with each other, and we don't all have the same views, and we don't do this and we don't do that. But I don't think communities are like that in the real world. And so I often wonder why we feel like communities should be like that online. I say the real world. Online is the real world. I mean, in the offline world, communities don't function the way that we seem to expect them to function online. And I always find that a little baffling, personally. I'm like, yes, sometimes people all in the same community hate each other, and that's just life. So it doesn't need to be a conversation every time about how terrible the community is. The community is just a community. It isn't anything. It just is. I'm rambling. It's something I feel gets under my skin occasionally when I hear people talk about the community, or there is no community because we don't all get on, or we don't all agree, or there's just little pockets of groups of people and cliques and whatever. Like, I haven't been invited to every single party, and therefore there is no community. I don't want to get rambly about it, and I don't want to get ranty about it. I think that within any community, there is discord. Within any community, there are pockets of people who don't like other pockets of people. I think that within any community, there are different views and different opinions and different ideas about what is and isn't the right way to do things, or what isn't acceptable, and what isn't one true Scotsman kind of thing. And I just don't think TarotTube is any different. I think it's just people expect it to be different because there isn't a level of spirituality involved. But having been involved in spiritual communities for over 20 years offline, they are like that too. That is what they are like too. The cat is going to just knock the camera. Excuse me. I got really sidetracked then. What kind of tarot content do you want to create in 2026? I don't really know. I just want to make the kind of tarot content I feel called to make in the moment. I don't want to tie myself into a box or say, I'm never going to make this kind of content. I'm only ever going to make that kind of content. I'm never going to talk about this. I'm only going to talk about that. I've tried planning in the past what I want my channel to feel like or look like or be, and it doesn't really work for me because I lose steam really quickly, and then I want to talk about other stuff and I feel like I can't because I've boxed myself into this idea of what kind of content I'm supposed to be making. And so I just want 2026 to be the year where if I want to make content about something, I make it, and if I don't, I don't. And that is as much planning as I have right now. What kind of content do you want to watch more of? I watch a lot of tarot content at this point based on the content creator more than on the context of the content. That was not how I wanted to say that, but hopefully that makes sense. That's not to say that I don't watch new creators, because I do, and often people will point me to new people, or new people will come up in my feed because the YouTube algorithm is very good at knowing what we want to watch and what we're most likely to watch. That's what it's built for. So I will watch stuff that catches my interest from people I don't know, but a large proportion of my time spent on TarotTube is watching people who I already know, who I have watched consistently for a long time, and who could make a video of a plastic bag in the wind. Anybody gets the film reference gets the point. And I would probably watch that because I just like those people. My YouTube watching is very parasocial at this point, it has to be said. But I do like long form content like this. I like content. My favorite kind of content is people sitting down in front of a camera and just shooting the shit about whatever they feel called to talk about. It doesn't have to necessarily be strictly tarot related. It's the kind of content that I like to make, and it's also the kind of content that I most like to watch. I also really enjoy tags and VRs, and I wish we did more of that still. But again, I will watch anything that catches my interest, and I don't want to tie myself into a little box. What kind of content are you ready to disengage from? Okay, so I don't like content that I believe is being controversial for the sake of being controversial. Now, I am absolutely ready to admit that I do not know the intention of the people that are putting out content ever. I can surmise what I think their intention is. But ultimately it's always just a projection of my ideas about that content. I'm not in their heads. I don't know them. But I am not interested in content that I believe is controversial for the sake of being controversial. Whether or not that was the person's actual intention, I am never going to know. I can only go based on how I feel about that content. And if I feel it's being controversial for the sake of being controversial, I'm not going to watch it, and I'm going to turn it off, and I'm not going to engage in it, and I'm not going to make videos on it, and I'm not going to leave comments, and I'm not going to talk about it I might talk about it with people offline, but that's, what I do in my private life is none of your business. I'm not going to try and sow seeds of discord and get people to not watch them and all of that kind of stuff. I'm not interested in drama for the sake of drama, so I'm not going to create it any more than I'm going to get involved in watching it. I hate that we're at a point that YouTube and just social media in general, I have come off social media completely. YouTube is the only social media that I am on, and I don't even really view it as social media, really. But I just hate that we've got to the point where people are being rewarded for being awful to each other. And the more awful you are, and the more controversial you are, and the more rage baity you are, the more you are rewarded by platforms like YouTube. I hate that. I think the world is just a real fucking dumpster fire as it is. And the fact that places like YouTube are contributing to that in some way by rewarding people who are just being assholes for the sake of clout or whatever. I don't even know what that fucking word means. I just is another thing that makes me really disengage, not just from that particular content, but often it makes me want to disengage from the platform altogether. Again, clearly something I feel very strongly about. I wasn't going to rant and rave, but sometimes I can't help myself. What values matter most to you in a tarot community? The values that matter most to me in a tarot community are the values that matter most to me in life in general. I have my own core values, things like personal responsibility, kindness, integrity, personal growth. Things that I feel are important and that I value are obviously the values that I look for in any community that I choose to engage in. I don't really have anything else to say on that, but that. And I did do a video. I will, if I can remember how, because it's been a while, I'm going to add it so that if you want to go and watch it, you can, where I talk about my values in more detail. It's a video I really enjoyed making, so hopefully you'll enjoy watching it. What boundaries feel important for you as a creator or a viewer? I mean, as a viewer, I think I've already talked about the boundaries that feel important to me, and that is all to do with my perception of the intent of the video. As a creator, I think that something I've always felt quite strongly about and have talked about in like a roundtable that I did many years ago when we talked about authenticity and stuff, is that it is possible to be authentic without having to give away everything. And ultimately, I get to decide how much or how little I share. I don't need to give somebody online everything. And I will share what I feel called to share. That doesn't make me inauthentic. It just makes me discerning about the information that I choose to put online. And that's a boundary that I feel quite strongly about. Something else, again, I've talked about in another video, that video that if I've figured out how, I've linked in the cards, possibly. No, a different video, which I'll also link in the cards, that I'm thinking of, is YouTube. This channel is my house. In the neighborhood that is TarotTube, this channel is my house. You don't get to come in my house and behave any way that you like. I get to decide how you behave in my house. And if you leave comments in my house that I don't like, they are getting deleted. You don't have to like that. And I have in the past had a situation where somebody did leave comments on my video that I did not like. I deleted them and I blocked them from making comments, and they made a whole fucking video about me instead. And that was a time, but I don't care. I don't care. If you want to leave shit in my comments that doesn't even have to be directed at me. It can just be comments that I think are inappropriate because they're racist or transphobic or any other kind of thing, ageist, whatever. I'm not interested. I'm not interested. You don't get to come in here and behave however you like. It's my house. I will block you. I will delete your comments. You are free to make as many videos as you like about me, and it will not stop me from doing that. Again, feel very strongly about that. How do you want tarot to feel in your life moving forward? Oof, that is a question. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I dip in and out of tarot depending on how I'm feeling. I mean, I do this with a lot of things. I'm very driven by my mood. That is just who I am as a person. And so I just want, I know that I always want tarot to be part of my life. I always want it to be something that is available to me in my life. And I always want it to be something that feels important in my life, even if that level of importance waxes and wanes. But I don't know how to put a specific feeling on that. I just want tarot to always be there. Just in some way to always be there. That's it. What kind of energy do you want to bring into the tarot community in 2026? I don't know. I don't know. I just haven't really thought about it that much, really. I think I just want to keep showing up as myself in whatever ways feel good and real and comfortable and kind in the moment. I want to continue being pretty chilled. I think I have a pretty chilled vibe in terms of the way that I deliver content and the type of content I put out there. And I would like to continue to be as non-judgmental as I can. I'm not generally my way or the highway kind of person. I'm very much a you do you boo kind of girl. So I'd like to continue turning up with that kind of energy, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. What kind of energy would you like me to show up with? No. What kind of energy would you like me to bring to the tarot community in 2026? You tell me, and I shall decide whether or not I'm capable of that. I don't know. That question was really hard for some reason. Anyway, thank you very much for sticking with me for this rapidly long video. If you did make it to the end, I really appreciate you, and I will see you all very shortly for another one. Take care and lots of love. Bye-bye.